everyone, Abby here, and welcome back to my channel, AbbyBCruising, and welcome if you're new. On this new channel here, I am doing cruise ship reviews and traveling content. Now today I'm going to be reviewing Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas cruise ship, a ship that I recently got off of, and I did a 7-night sailing out of New Jersey. Now on this sailing, there was some good, there was some bad. I'm going to talk about the food, the price, the customer service, the rooms, the internet, the activities, the entertainment, and more. But before I get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed so you can stay tuned to all my new videos dropping in so you can help the channel grow. So as I mentioned, I went on a 7-night sailing out of New Jersey. We left out of Cape Liberty Cruise Port. This was a Bahamas cruise that went to Perfect Day, Coco Cay, Bahamas, Royal Caribbean's private island. It went to Nassau, Bahamas, and it went to Orlando, Florida. So getting on the ship, that's the first thing I'm going to start off with. As we arrived at Cape Liberty Cruise Port, it was super seamless. We just got right out. We handed our kind of bigger luggages to the staff that was out there. Make sure you have your name and your cabin number on your suitcases tagged. I bought this thing off of Amazon that's reusable. I have a link in the description below if you do want to check that out. So after that, we went through scanners. They checked your little carry-on bags, so you gave your bigger bags to the other people. The lanes there were separated depending on your boarding time. Ours was 11 a.m. We were there about 10 minutes early, showed our ID, showed our sail pass, and we were let right on the cruise ship, no waiting. I always really like sailing out of the Cape Liberty port. For me, it's a super quick flight, and I just like that they're always quick and efficient. So once we got on the cruise ship, we did our muster drill, which for those of you who don't know is basically like the safety drill on what to do in case of emergencies. There's a little video you have to watch. We did that to get it out of the way first. So that was the process of getting on the ship. Now I want to talk about the food. So this being an Oasis class ship, it is huge. And because of the huge size, they were able to fit in a bunch of different dining venues and food options. There's really something for everybody there. For me, I do have celiac disease, so I do need to eat gluten-free. I'm also a vegetarian. And they had stuff for me to eat. Now they have complimentary things that are included in your cruise fare, and they have specialty dining and extra charge, items that are not included. Some examples of things that are specialty dining is they have a steakhouse, they have a zumi, which is Japanese food, where you can get kind of sushi, sashimi. They also have hitachi, which is like that live type of food where they make this stuff in front of you and it's kind of a big show. They have Wonderland, if you want the Alice in Wonderland food experience, and more specialty dining options. And when it comes to the things that are included, they had a lot as well, such as the main dining room, where you're gonna go for your classic fine dining experience where you're sitting down and you're served a 3-course meal. There's also Windjammer, which is a buffet, grab and go. And if you're a pizza lover like me, there is Sorrento's Pizza Park Cafe, where you can go and get grab and go sandwiches, some bags of chips. There's a cafe promenade if you want to get yourself some pastries, some little sandwiches, and if you want coffee and tea. And if you find this video helpful so far, please go ahead and smash that like button for me. I'd really appreciate it. So the food in general, I would say was very hit or miss. There was some food I had on the ship that was amazing and just so good. And there was some other food that I'm like, this should never have left the kitchen. This is really bad. So it was definitely very hit or miss. I'll put an example of one of the menus on screen for you so you guys can see an example there. Now, if you're more interested in the food, I'm doing a full review just on food on Symphony of the Seas very soon to get more into that, because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to food. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that if you're interested. Next thing I want to go over is the demographic on board. Now this is something I did want to cover because I feel like a lot of people don't cover it, and some people are interested in, the demographic on board. By and large, this cruise ship is huge and it has stuff really for everybody, and it does draw a lot of people from different age groups. Now, I did see a lot of families. So I saw families with kind of little children, I saw families with teens, and I saw a lot of couples. So couples mainly from like ages 20 to 50, there was a lot of those as well. I did not see that many solo travelers myself. There were a few. I did see that there was a couple solo travelers events so they could meet on board. And in terms of seniors, 65 plus, I didn't see that many of them on this sailing. And for me, that kind of makes sense because it's a huge cruise ship, which requires a lot of walking and mobility. So I did see really a wide variety of age ranges. I would say when it comes to children, there wasn't really kids running rampant when I was on the sailing. So for the nationalities on board, it was predominantly American. And then I would say Canadians and Europeans were kind of trickled in there as well. So that was kind of the majority that I did see for nationalities on there, just myself on board talking to people as well.
Now, when it came to the races of passengers on board, I would say predominantly it was Caucasian, about 50%. And then there were kind of a mix of Black people, Hispanic, Asian, and other. It was very multicultural actually, which is always nice to see.
I wouldn't say it's like a party cruise where people are going on and getting belligerent and whatever, but good amount of people in the nightclubs and the casinos watching the shows and stuff like that. So it wasn't like dead when it came to interacting with fellow passengers. There's people from all over the world on that ship. If you are bored, definitely talk to somebody. People are on a cruise to have a good time, and a lot of people are open to talking, making new friends. But I would say if you are someone who does have mobility issues, or if you're someone who just doesn't want to walk a lot, I would not go on Symphony of the Seas. It is just a lot in terms of mobility. For example, getting from like one end to the ship of the other could take you like 20 minutes or more of just walking. So keep that in mind. All right, guys, so now let's get into the activities. On Symphony of the Seas, there are a huge amount of activities. I'm talking so many activities that you're not gonna get even half of them done if you're going on a 7-night sailing. Now, there are activities for all ages and different interests. If you're someone who you want to do trivia, there's daily trivia every day. If you're someone who you're more into board games, word search and stuff like that, they had competitions as well as solo activities. You could just grab and go. They had different scavenger hunts. There was ice skating on board, zip lining, which you could do, all included as well. There's rock climbing. There was a golf course on board, surf simulator as well if you want to take your hand at surfing. There was a sports court if you wanted to play basketball or soccer, if you wanted to play pickleball. There's also adult-only scavenger hunts, pretty fun. There's laser tag, there's casino activities as well, like casino tournaments. Talking about the casino as well, there's a main casino where people can smoke in, and there is also a smoke-free casino. So I thought that was pretty cool because Symphony of the Seas is one of the only ships from Royal Caribbean that has a smoke-free casino. So it's a separate area, it's smaller, but it has a couple of tables in there if you want to play some card games. It also has a bunch of slots as well. There was also bingo that happened, which I love bingo. In addition to that, there is water slides on board. There is a dry slide as well that you can ride from at the top to the bottom of the ship. There is a carousel for kids and kids at heart, different classes that you could take. Some free, like dance classes if you wanted to learn how to do some choreographed moves to a song, and there was some paid things like if you wanted to do cupcake decorating or learning how to make sushi. Another thing that you might want to do as an activity is go swimming. They had a huge pool, general all ages pool. They had hot tubs as well, and then they have an adult only solarium, which you have to be 18 or older to use. In addition to that, if you do have little ones, if little kids or teens, they have separate areas that you can kind of drop them off in where they can go make friends and hang out with people their own ages. At, the teen club or the little kids clubs, they can play a bunch of little activities there. They have like video game tournaments, they do arts and crafts. They do a scavenger hunt, there's movies to watch, there's so many things for the kids. Now, when I went on my first cruise over 10 years ago, I was in the teen club. It was so much fun, and that was literally the cruise that started everything. I would say if you do have children, do not worry about them being bored. Show them where to go to, the teen lounge, the kid club area, and they will have a really fun time. And if you do have babies on board, you can drop them off at the nursery. There is a fee for that, but it's a pretty small fee. If you wanted to do that, if you wanted to drop them off at the nursery, maybe have dinner together without, the baby, you can do that as well. So activities, and I kind of talked about childcare a little bit, but so much to do, fantastic on this ship. Now I'm going to talk about entertainment. So entertainment in my eyes is something that you're kind of sitting and watching. It's not something that you're actively participating in, like activities. So when it came to entertainment on Symphony of the Seas, there were a lot of different shows. So there was an ice skating show, comedy shows you can go to. There were solo musicians and bands as well. There was like rock music. There was some classical stuff. There was a pianist who was kind of traveling around the ship. There was a water show called Hero. There were people who were commonly on the pool deck playing Caribbean music, you know, steel drums, all that stuff. Huge amount of musicians on the ship. And I would say all of the ones I heard were super talented. So when it comes to entertainment, I think it was great, really great. The only thing I didn't really like personally was the water show. This was my first Oasis class ship and I just was expecting a water show, but when I went there, it was really just people dancing in costumes by the water. Like they would jump in occasionally and then come out and dance, like choreographed. It was weird to me. I would have preferred to just see diving and like synchronized swimming and I don't know, something like that. But Hero, which was a show, the water show was not my liking. There's also a Broadway production level musical on board. On Symphony of the Seas, it was Hairspray. I did check it out for a little bit. The actors seemed amazing. They were really good at singing. There's also movies that you can watch by the poolside on a huge screen.
My favorite entertainment on board was definitely the ice skating show.
So a lot of different entertainment options on board. All right guys, so another thing I wanted to talk about is the rooms. I did stay in an interior cabin on this sailing. Now, when it comes to the rooms for Royal Caribbean, you can choose from interior, ocean view, balcony, or a suite option. Now, I did choose interior for this one because this was actually my honeymoon cruise, guys, and we had spent so much on the wedding and we decided let's just get an interior so we could save some money on the actual room and then put extra money towards things like specialty dining, excursions, stuff like that. And I don't regret that decision at all. Interior rooms I find are a good option if you are looking to save some money, especially if you're going on a larger ship, because I find the larger and newer the cruise ship, the more expensive it is. If you do want to have some ocean views, you do have an option to pay more money and you can get a ocean view, which is you're getting a window to see the outside. You can get a balcony as well, where you get a full balcony to outside, or you can get a balcony to inside of the ship, you know, different areas. Like if you want to look at the boardwalk, you can do that. Now, when it came to the room, I did find for an interior, it was pretty spacious. There was room for our luggage, room to get around. The bathroom was a good size. I did find it was a good size room for 2 people. There was a TV, a couch, a mini fridge, bed, closets, lots of drawers, a mirror and vanity to get ready, had AC that worked really well in my room in particular. At nighttime, if you turn off the lights, it's pitch black. So if you want to, you can bring a night light or you can leave the bathroom light on or something. If you're interested in what the room was like, I have a room tour on Symphony of the Seas, which you can find coming up at the top right, also linked in the description below for you to check out when you're done watching this. Another thing about the rooms is that the rooms did get cleaned once a day. Now you can choose to have that cleaned in the morning or you can choose to have that cleaned in the evening with your cabin attendant. Typically they'll come in and they will swap out your towels, they'll clean up, make the bed. The person we had, he didn't do the best job. There was sometimes we'd come back, he didn't like refill the toilet paper, or he forgot to leave us like a towel. Sometimes we'd eat in the room and we'd leave a plate there. He wouldn't pick up the plate. He didn't vacuum up the crumbs that we dropped by accident. He was very friendly. I could tell he was trying. But I did have a hiccup with the room. So initially, when I walked into the room, it smelled like crap. No joke. The entire room smelled horrible. Now, obviously, not a good start to my vacation. When we did express this to guest services, we kind of got a run around. They were like, oh, like, it's fine, we'll send someone to clean the room. They cleaned the room, didn't help at all. Basically, the smell was actually coming from the shower. It wasn't coming from the toilet, so there was an issue with the drainage. So basically, the guy was coming in, cleaning it. It didn't do anything. It just made the room smell like bleach and smell like, you know, crap. So it wasn't ideal. There was a lot of back and forth. They kept saying, oh, come back later. We're at full capacity, come back later. Mind you, they literally said that you have to stay in the room because we're going to be sending this person to look at the issue. We're going to be sending this person to look at the drainage. They kept saying we're going to send people to do this and that. We had to stay in the room for 5 hours. At least one of us did, to make sure that we were not missing, you know, the people who needed to come in and look at the rooms. But I will say I really do appreciate the housekeeping manager there. He did a fantastic job in actually keeping us up to date. So I really do appreciate his help there. And he even went as far as, you know, giving us some strawberries and some champagne. So that's something that I really did appreciate. Of course, we weren't expecting to get anything, but that was really nice. We came back after sailing and they're like, oh, just come back after dinner. It literally took probably around 6 to 7 hours for us to get this thing, you know, finally solved. We were able to switch rooms. They were able to find a room coincidentally on the exact same floor, same category and everything. It was just the doors down, and we switched into that room. There was no issues with that room, no issues with smells. It was basically the exact same layout as our original room. It was kind of just like reversed, like the bed was on this side instead of this side of the room. Overall, that wasn't a great start to the vacation, but once we were able to get into a new room, things were fine.
Symphony of the Seas is an Oasis class ship, and it was the first ship to introduce the neighborhood concept, which is basically different parts of the ship have their own theme going on. So we have the boardwalk, which is your classic, you know, boardwalk experience where you're going to see, you know, a hot dog stand, there's some entertainment, there was playmakers, a sports bar, and arcade. There was a carousel there as well. There was a sweet shop where you can go in and grab some ice cream or grab some candy. And there was a giant pool for entertainment when they had the water show. So the boardwalk was a really nice area to kind of walk through and to have some fun. There was also Central Park, which is based on, you know, Central Park in New York. It is an area that has live greenery that is beautiful looking. They put in the sound of birds and of insects chirping. It really does feel like you're walking through area on land. It really doesn't feel like a cruise ship. In this area, you see some nice food venues. You see Central 150, which is a high dining kind of experience. There is the Park Cafe. Once again, grab and go sandwiches. They had another bar there as well. So in addition to that, we have the promenade. So in the Royal Promenade there, they got a bunch of food venues and a bunch of shops. If you wanted to go and get your, you know, Royal Caribbean gear, you can go grab that. They had Sorrento's, the pizza shop there. They had Cafe Promenade, once again. So this was an area where it was a lot more shopping. And of course we have the pool deck, which I find to be a neighborhood area of its own, where you have a bunch of lounge chairs for people who want to tan, people who want to go swimming. There's, as I mentioned before, they got the large screen there, which they sports games on and movies. We have the solarium. So we have our sports courts and the rock climbing wall and all of the fun kind of outdoorsy activities there too.
They have a full spa on there where you can go, you can get your nails done, you can get your hair done, you can do, you know, facials, massages, whatever type of treatments you want to do. And then they had a full fitness center as well. So if you want to work out, get your morning run in, or, you know, lift your weights, they have a huge amount of, you know, athletic equipment that you can use, like bike machines, ellipticals, stair climbers. They had mats that you can use for stretching, for yoga. It's a great area to go work out, and I find that it's usually pretty dead because a lot of people don't work out on vacation. I do like to get my workouts in, especially when you're eating a lot on the cruise ships. Good AC as well. And they have some classes that you can go to as well if you want to do like a cycling class, or if you want to do yoga. Some are paid, some are free. And there is a giant walking track kind of on the bottom of the ship, which I really like, because some ships have your walking deck on the top of the ship, which honestly kind of gets in the way of people who are sunbathing. But on Symphony and Oasis class ships, they have it kind of at the bottom where the lifeboats are. So you're just in an area that is kind of out of the way and it's shaded, and you're still getting a bunch of natural lighting coming in from the sides, and you can see the ocean, and it's just really nice to be in an area that's separate. So I did get internet for this sailing. I did get the stream and surf package. It was for one device. And I'll say overall, the internet worked pretty well. It's fast when it came to loading pages, even when it came to watching content like YouTube videos or just, you know, Netflix, stuff like that. There was very little like lagging and delay. I also found if you were trying to watch higher resolution videos, like if you're trying to do 4K streaming, it was really bad, but the 1080 it did pretty well. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing about the internet that I didn't like is the price. It was expensive, but when you're kind of stuck at sea, you need internet, you don't really have much of an option there. But I will say I did buy it ahead of sailing online, and it was cheaper there. I believe I saved like 30%. So At least I did get a discount on it. Another thing I did want to mention is that if you just want to be able to message, other people if you're sailing with like a group or your family or something, you can do that for free through the Royal Caribbean app. There's like a little messaging thing that you can do. So that's nice. You don't have to buy internet if you want to just be like, hey, where are you? Or do you want to meet here? Like, you can do that for free. But I will say one thing about that is that I did find it was delayed. Sometimes the messages would come immediately. Sometimes it would take like 5-10 minutes for the messages to show up on my end. And finally, if you're using the internet to like upload videos, I was trying to upload YouTube stuff. It was so slow. And when I mean slow, something that would take my computer at home a minute took 3.5 to 4 hours on the cruise ship to upload one video that was like 5 minutes in length. So internet may or may not be worth it for you. Around the ship, there was constantly people cleaning. They were dusting, they were sweeping, they were cleaning the bathrooms, like the common area bathrooms around the ship. Really good job, like very clean everywhere. I didn't really see any like dirt or nothing. Sometimes there'd be plates that people would just like randomly throw on the floor because I don't know why people do that, but some passengers would just throw their plates on the floor and the staff would pick them up pretty quickly, and the ship in general was just very clean. A lot cleaner than my cabin was at times. But yeah, pretty good overall cleanliness for the cruise ship. I will say that there were a bit of hiccups when it came to dining. Sometimes there were some cups that could have been cleaned better. Sometimes there was, some like forks and knives and stuff. Sometimes there was like food on them and it was gross, but that wasn't something that happened constantly. It was something that I did notice. All of these staff members I saw were very presentable. So one thing I really liked about Symphony of the Seas is they had a lot of different hand washing stations. So they had little sanitizing stations where you'd like wash your hands. They also had actual sinks with water and soap, washy, which they say a million times, wash your hands on the ship. I thought that was great to have those all around the ship. I really like washing my hands with water and soap a lot more than using sanitizer. It's a really good way to, stay healthy and prevent, germs from spreading. All right, guys, so talking about service. So overall, the service on the ship, I'd say was great. The head waiters and, the different dining staff all over the ship, I found that they were really good, most of them. Solarium Bistro, when I went to Windjammer, main dining room, specialty dining restaurants, I found that people there were just very responsive and they wanted to help you, which was a great experience. Other than that first day dealing with the room issue, after that passed, it was very smooth sailing with customer service. Even going to the customer service desk again, very pleasant to deal with. They resolved my issues quickly, answered our questions immediately. When it came to our service in all of the venues, whether it be like a restaurant, bar, or whatever, they were fantastic. They were attentive, they were friendly. I really especially think that the people in the main dining room just go above and beyond. Like, they have a bunch of guests that they're serving, but they remember your names, they remember your preferences, your orders, and they just literally met you yesterday. So fantastic service in the main dining room as well. Like I mentioned, I do have eating restrictions, being gluten-free, also being vegetarian, and they were able to get me all the answers that I needed. They really just made our vacation like that much better. All right, guys, so now I'm gonna talk about the price and the value of this cruise. Symphony of the Seas came out in 2018, so it's still relatively pretty new, and because of that, still pretty expensive. So for the 7-night sailing on Symphony of the Seas, I spent $1,260 Canadian, or approximately $970 American, including taxes and fees per person for an interior room. Of course, the price of your sailing will fluctuate depending on the time that you're sailing, the itinerary as well. Now, it was expensive for me, in my opinion, for a 7-night sailing, for an interior room especially. Of course, for me, I did have to pay for flights as well, so there's extra charges, but if you're someone who you're able to just drive to the port, even better. So overall, wasn't the best, wasn't horrible for this type of cruise ship class. Now, when it came to value for additional things, like if you wanted to go on an excursion, if you wanted to book an internet package, photo package, stuff like that, all of that stuff was overpriced. Specialty dining was expensive, the alcohol expenses, and if you're someone who you are looking for free alcohol and you are a member of Royal Caribbean, definitely go to the members only event. They will give out some drinks there for free. And if you want to do an art auction, whether you're interested in, buying the art or not, they do give out complimentary champagne. So just wanted to throw that in there. All right, guys, so I did notice some cons on this cruise ship. So the first con for me was lines. There was long lines everywhere. This is my first Oasis class ship. I had purposely avoided them in the past because I did not want to deal with lines. You know, traveling with thousands of passengers,
Over 5,000 passengers.
there's lines. Now, in reviews I've watched, people were like, oh, the lines aren't bad. I got to navigate through the ship easily. No, there are lines everywhere. You're looking to go on an elevator, lines. You're looking to go in food venues, lines. You're looking to get off the ship to, you know, explore the islands, lines everywhere. So don't be fooled by people telling you there's not lines. Maybe they were on a cruise ship during the COVID period when there was like no passengers, but now everything's back to full capacity. Expect lines. Another con for me that is similar to all of the Oasis class ships is that you need to book everything on the app. You can no longer just walk up and be like, oh, after dinner, let's go to the comedy show and pop by. No, you have to book that in advance on the app. Sometimes you gotta book it like a day or two in advance just to get a ticket. So I don't love that because if you want to be spontaneous, you can't really. Even for me, we did book stuff and we still had to wait in lines. If you're someone who you're just not gonna book anything and pop up, you're gonna have to wait in long lines to even get in because there's like wait lists. It's just not a great experience waiting in lines for everything. I would have much preferred they just let you show up and watch a show like you could do first come, first serve on the smaller cruise ships. So another con for me is just the lack of sea views. So when you're on a cruise ship, of course you're cruising in the middle of the ocean. So you're expecting that you're gonna see the ocean, but you don't see the ocean much on this ship. You forget you're on a cruise ship a lot of the time. So that's something that you're gonna be missing out on is the sea views. If you have a balcony in your room, hey, you can just look out the balcony, see anytime. But if you don't, like me, you're gonna have to go hunting for them. The newer ships started to show you less of the sea. It's a common trend that I've noticed and something I did want to mention that I don't love. Another con for me that I wasn't expecting with a cruise ship that's, you know, this new is the air conditioning was pretty poor on the ship. Now in the cabins in particular, they were pretty good. If you're in maybe like the library or somewhere where it was sectioned off, like a theater, the AC was pretty good, but in the common areas, the main dining room, windjammer, kind of just throughout the ship, it was pretty poor. Now, that's something that I didn't like because it was hot. On this sailing, we were in the Caribbean. You would have to just go in your cabin and cool down or maybe just go on the top deck, go outside, get that ocean breeze because the AC just really wasn't doing it. I did find, you know, coincidentally or not, that the specialty restaurants had good AC, but the rest of the areas just, they didn't. So the final con for me on this cruise ship, and this is one I was not expecting, was the motion. Now, Symphony of the Seas, being a newer cruise ship, is supposed to have like these new stabilizers, it's supposed to be super smooth sailing. That ship was rocking back and forth like crazy. I'm someone who I do get seasick very easily, and I'd find that it was mostly a trend in the evening and at night. Now, talking to other passengers, people were saying, oh, you know, the captain is just sailing really quickly and the waves are hitting the ship, so that's why we're feeling these waves a lot. I didn't have that confirmed. This is just what, you know, other passengers were saying, but it makes sense to me because I feel like we were maybe behind schedule and he just wanted to get there. I was on the 3rd floor and I still felt the rocking like crazy. It made it really hard to sleep at night sometimes. When you went up to like deck 10 or 11 or 12, some people were like couldn't even walk. Some people were like falling over, had to like grab onto walls. When you were obviously in port, when the ship's not moving, you're not gonna have an issue, but I did find on some of the sea days, especially at nighttime, it was really bad. And that's something that I was super surprised about because when I was on smaller cruise ships, when I was on the Freedom class, for example, or the Quantum class, I didn't feel anything. Never. It was just like very smooth sailings. Another thing I wanted to mention is if you do want to book specialty dining, or if you want to do an excursion, if you want to get internet, if you want to get photo packages, any of that stuff, make sure you do it before you get on the ship online. Because when you get on the ship, the price is a lot higher. Even though the ship will tell you, oh, this is a one-day deal, 25% off. It was way cheaper when you bought it online beforehand. So that's something to keep in mind. So another con for me is that this was expensive. I had to go with an interior cabin here because to save some money, because that booking, it was just too expensive to go with a, you know, balcony or an ocean view or a suite. I do think it should have been a bit cheaper because this cruise ship came out about 5 years ago. I think that the pricing was a bit high. So another con for me is just large capacity of people. When I asked about the capacity of the ship, I was told that they're at full capacity. So that means there were over 5,000 people sailing on this ship. I don't think that's the best idea to have the cruise ship that packed with people because once again, there were lots of lines and everything. And another thing I noticed is that Royal Caribbean wasn't really checking anybody for like sickness or anything. I know we're past the pandemic, but there's still sick people. There were sick people all over the ship. There were people coughing and sneezing and hacking. It was kind of gross to me, be honest. And the ship didn't really do anything to check for COVID or check for flu or anything. Had a questionnaire that said, are you sick? Yes or no. And people could lie. People definitely lied. There was a lot of people on that ship who were sick. So I think that they should do something else. Like they should implement some type of guide there to actually check to ensure that people are not coming on the cruise ship super sick and affecting others.
So when it comes to the ports of call, there were 3 of them once again on this cruise. Now, perfect day at Coco Cay is Royal Caribbean's private island in Bahamas. It has become one of my favorite ports. I really like that it really has everything. There are paid things you can do, like you can go zip lining, you can go into the water park, you can pay to go into the adults only, like pool lounge area, and there's a bunch of free things you can do too, like going in the different pools they have, going swimming in the actual sea. You can play beach games, just a bunch of water activities. And one thing I really like about Perfect Day Coco Cay is that they have food that's all included everywhere. So they have a giant buffet on the island where you can go and grab burgers and hot dogs and salads and different desserts and fruits and veggies, and just awesome. I really like that pretty much everything that you have on the ship is included. So if you have an internet package, it's included. If you have a beverage package, alcohol or different pops and stuff, that is also included. So everything gets kind of taken over on the Perfect Day. So it's very seamless there. You get to just go in the ocean in Bahamas, which is clear, beautiful water. And there are a bunch of different beaches you can go to. There's different pools as well. So I never really find it to be an issue of can't find a seat. And nobody really bothers you to try to sell you things. It's just complete relaxation. So when it came to Nassau, Bahamas, you're actually going, into Bahamas and interacting with the locals there. This was actually my first time in Bahamas, and I found that everyone there was really friendly and they had beautiful beaches once again. I found that getting around was pretty easy. We just kind of self-toured. We went to a beach, we took a taxi and kind of paid to go to a beach and back. It was very easy. You can go to Atlantis if you want to pay for that. That's a popular one in Bahamas, which is a aquarium you can go to. But if you just want to go to the beach, once again, if you want to go shopping, you have a lot of options to do that in Bahamas. And the locals there, they will try to sell you stuff, of course, but I didn't find them to be too pushy. If you said no, they would respect that. They had pretty good deals if you're just looking to get, some souvenirs like some t-shirts or some little bags. I really did like Bahamas. It definitely gives you that classical Caribbean vibe. So the last stop was Orlando, Florida, in Port Canaveral. I personally really like doing stops in America. Now, some people don't like it because it's not technically Caribbean, but I don't mind. The United States has a lot of things that I just can't find at home. For example, a lot of different gluten-free items, even at Walmart, Target, that I just can't find back in Canada. So I love going and shopping. Of course, if you want to go shopping at the mall, they have some close by. And of course, there's Disney if you want to go to a theme park as well. So I personally did like this itinerary. It's kind of just a laid-back vacation. On the last night, they give you an option to have the cruise line staff take your large luggages for you, take that off the ship, and it meets you basically when you get off the ship. Or you take your large luggage off the ship yourself. Now, for me, I had a flight to catch, so we decided to do self-disembarkation. If you're waiting for the cruise ship who takes your bags, you have to basically get off the ship later. If you're self-embarking, you can usually get off really early. They basically give you like a sheet that says this is the times that you can self-disembark. So basically they color code things, and they'll be like, blue is gonna get off at between 8 to 9, and then yellow between 9 to 10 or whatever. So we went to breakfast early. I think we went at like 6:30 or something in main dining room. Basically we just had to go to like a certain lounge area, and then they let us off, and it was kind of like lined up, and you got off the cruise ship there. There was a bit of a line, once again, getting off, but it was moving. It did take around 20 to 25 minutes to get off, so not the quickest procedure, but it wasn't too bad. It was simple, it was straightforward, it was directed well, and there wasn't any large delays, so I did find that experience pretty good. On this cruise, I did have a good time. There were some ups and there were some downs for sure, but in general, we did have a good vacation. We had great weather and it was fun. So considering the price of the cruise, the food, the entertainment, the room, the customer service, and more, I would go ahead and give Symphony of the Seas a 7.5 out of 10. I definitely do give it a thumbs up. Now, if you guys are looking to go on Royal Caribbean Symphony of the Seas, I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description for you to use. And if you don't know how to book a cruise and you're kind of confused about that, let me know in the comments below. I can do a video telling you guys how to book a cruise, ways to save money doing it as well. And I do have some more cruises booked for this year, for next year, the year after. I book my cruises in advance because you get the best deals, but I'm gonna be giving you guys a lot of cruise reviews coming up. Now, if you guys have ever been on Symphony of the Seas, let me know your experience. If you've never been cruising before, let me know if you're going to cruise, if you're interested in it. Go ahead and drop a comment below. I do read all the comments and I'll definitely get back to you. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.